Good evening, welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Yeshi Chonzom. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 12th of November. India's finance minister announces third stimulus package, says economy seeing a strong recovery. Bilawal Bhutto, Maryam Nawaz agreed to uphold PDM narrative ahead of Gilgit Baltistan election. And Afghanistan remains deadliest country for civilians, says Red Cross. And now for all the details. India's economy is seeing a strong recovery taking root, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said on Thursday, while announcing a third round of fiscal stimulus to help stressed sectors battling the COVID-19 pandemic. The government's latest measures include a new employment scheme, among other initiatives.
India's economy is seeing a strong recovery taking root, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said on Thursday while announcing a third round of fiscal stimulus to help stressed sectors battling COVID-19 pandemic. The recovery is not only due to pent-up demand, Sitharaman told a news conference as she announced Atmanirbhar 3.0, a stimulus package amounting to 1.2 trillion rupees, in addition to 1.45 trillion rupees announced on Wednesday. Latest measures include additional funding for real estate developers and contractors, fertilizer subsidies, a new employment scheme, and additional spending on the Rural Jobs Scheme, among other initiatives.
The Composite Purchase Managers Index has risen to 58.9 in October, and the previous month it was at 54.6, and therefore this is the strongest increase that you've seen in output in close to 9 years. So that itself shows it is just not the pent-up demand but also a strong pitch for recovery.
Despite Sitharaman's buoyant tone, markets weakened as the press conference progressed on Thursday. The NSE Nifty 50 index closed 0.46% lower at 12,690.8, and the S&P BSE Sensex fell 0.54% to 43,357.19. The Indian economy was the worst performing major economy globally in the April to June period, contracting 23.9% amid a stringent lockdown to curb the spread of the pandemic.
The Serum Institute of India, the world's largest vaccine producer, has said it has made 40 million doses of AstraZeneca's potential COVID-19 vaccine, but declined to comment the vaccine was meant for global supply or only for India. The news came as coronavirus infections in India reached 8.68 million on Thursday, and the death toll increased to more than 128,000. Serum Institute of India, the world's largest vaccine producer, said on Thursday it has made 40 million doses of AstraZeneca's potential COVID-19 vaccine and would soon begin making Novavax's rival shot as they both seek regulatory approval. While there are no COVID-19 vaccines approved yet and trials are still underway to prove they are safe and effective, leading drug makers have been funded to begin production early to expedite deliveries, as the pandemic has killed more than 1.2 million people worldwide. Serum said it has enrolled 1,600 participants in India for the late-stage trials of AstraZeneca's candidate and also plans to seek regulatory approval to run late-stage trials for the Novavax vaccine. The news came as coronavirus infections in India, the world's second worst hit country, reached 8.68 million on Thursday, and the death toll increased to more than 128,000. Meanwhile, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced over $122 million funding for vaccine research in the country and clarified the funding will only be for research and development of COVID-19 vaccine. In news from Pakistan, Pakistan People's Party Chairman Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari and Pakistan Muslim League-Nawaz Vice President Maryam Nawaz held a meeting on Wednesday and decided to uphold the Pakistan Democratic Movement narrative ahead of upcoming Gilgit Baltistan election. PDM is an 11-party opposition alliance which aims to oust incumbent Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan's government.
Pakistan People's Party chairman Bilawal Bhutto-Zardari and Pakistan Muslim League-Nawaz Vice President Maryam Nawaz held a meeting on Wednesday and decided to uphold the Pakistan Democratic Movement or PDM narrative ahead of the upcoming Gilgit Baltistan election. Maryam and Bilawal are both on a campaign trail in the illegally occupied region ahead of the November 15 Gilgit Baltistan Legislative Assembly election. The two leaders during the meeting decided their parties contesting each other would constitute separate teams to point out irregularities and rigging on the polling day, according to local media reports. Pakistan Democratic Movement is an alliance constituting 11 opposition parties which have come together to channelize public discontent against incumbent Prime Minister Imran Khan's government over rising inflation, power cuts, closure of businesses and other economic misery. There is huge resentment among locals in Gilgit-Baltistan against PM Imran Khan's recent arbitrary decision to turn the illegally occupied region into a provisional province and the move to hold elections. Pakistan Democratic Movement has also opposed the decision, but most parties are contesting the polls.
Moving on, activist Amjad Ayub Mirza has urged the US President-elect Joe Biden to intervene while highlighting Pakistan's atrocities on the people living in illegally occupied territories of Pakistan-administered Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan. He also pointed to the impact of expansion of Chinese imperialism in the region.
Asserting that Pakistan-administered Kashmir has been suffering for the past 73 years under Pakistani colonialism, activist Amjad Ayub Mirza on Wednesday urged the US President-elect Joe Biden to heal the wounded and divided people of Pakistan-administered Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Mirza highlighted human rights violations by Pakistan and the impact of expansion of Chinese imperialism in the region in the wake of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which has also resulted in the uncanny control of China on illegally occupied territories.
Mr. President-elect, we have been suffering for the past 73 years under the illegal occupation of Pakistan colonialism. And now, since China's Belt and Road Initiative has encroached into our lands in Gilgit-Baltistan, we face double colonization of Pakistan and China. And the uncanny economic and territorial and military relations between Pakistan and China make this issue even more pressing.
Mirza also wrote to Biden highlighting misuse of anti-terrorism laws against activists who are framed on purpose to crush any civil dissent in illegally occupied region. Activists have long accused the Pakistan government of systematically launching crackdowns on the people who try to educate an aware public about the nefarious designs of Islamabad.
In news from Afghanistan, more violence continues to erupt between Taliban fighters and government troops in Afghanistan, despite peace negotiations being underway in Qatar. Fighting has also flared in several provinces, including southern province of Helmand. In view of the latest violence, the International Committee of Red Cross has said that Afghanistan remains the deadliest country for civilians, with the Afghan women and children make up half of the fatalities.
The International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC on Wednesday said that Afghanistan remains the deadliest country for civilians, with Afghan women and children make up half of the fatalities. Robert Martini, Director General of the ICRC, who is on his 4-day Afghanistan visit, said that escalation of violence in Afghanistan in recent months has worsened the humanitarian situation in the country, adding that hundreds of injuries, among them many civilians, have been admitted to hospitals in Kandahar, Helmand and Ghazni provinces. Madini met several senior Afghan officials as well as the Taliban officials in Andar district of Ghazni province. He called on both sides of Afghan conflict to do their best to safeguard civilians from harm. Madini expressed hope that intra-Afghan talks will get traction and yield peace. And the trip to Afghanistan provided a good opportunity to brief the donors in the upcoming Geneva conference on Afghanistan about the needs of the Afghan people. This comes 2 days after the US Special Inspector for Afghanistan Reconstruction, Sigar, in a new report quoting the resolute support, said 876 civilians were killed and 1,685 were wounded from July 1 to September 30, 2020. The report says that though casualties are typically high in the third quarter of any year, this quarter's high figures are notable because they occurred during an ongoing peace process and despite Taliban commitments to reduce violence.
Moving on to news from Nepal. The Supreme Court of Nepal has refused to issue an interim order barring the ruling Nepal Communist Party's Vice Chairman Bamdev Gautam on Wednesday. Gautam, who had lost the 2017 parliamentary elections for a House of Representatives seat, was appointed as a National Assembly member by President Bidya Devi Bhandari. But his appointment was challenged and two separate petitions were filed, where the advocates had claimed that Gautam's appointment as lawmaker has breached the constitution. The court order clearing the way for Gautam to assume any constitutional positions comes at a time when the conflict has once again deepened in the ruling party, as Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and co-chair of NCP Pushpa Kamal Dahal are at odds. With the beginning of Diwali festivities, artists in parts of India are introducing unique ways of celebrating the annual Hindu festival while causing no damage to environment. The artists have introduced chocolate bombs and seed crackers to encourage people to avoid firecrackers. People burst crackers during Diwali celebrations, which raise pollution levels every year.
A sweets maker in Bangalore city of India's southern Karnataka state has introduced a way of celebrating the Hindu festival of Diwali for those who love buying and gifting crackers. Keeping in mind the adverse effects which firecrackers have on the environment, the artist has replaced actual bombs with different kinds of chocolates in same wrappers as firecrackers. There is a tradition of gifting family and friends during Diwali in India. People often gift sweets, candles and crackers to each other on the occasion and find joy in the procedure.
You can't think of a Diwali without crackers. I mean, I know that there's a lot of talk about not using crackers and all of that, but as a person who really looks forward to Diwali every year, it's pretty much the only festival I celebrate. I think you can't do away with crackers during Diwali. So for me, as a person who also deals with chocolate, I do a lot of things with it. It's like a medium for me. So I wanted to bring in the concept with something that I love so much. Like everybody loves chocolate, everybody loves crackers.
Meanwhile, an artist in northern Haryana's Panchkula city is making unique eco-friendly crackers for this Diwali to spread awareness among people regarding nature and saving environment. Tanika Bansal is using seeds to make the bombs which will grow into plants. Bansal has even put seeds into earthen lamps, so people have to put it into the soil and it will grow into plants.
Youth in Kathua town of India's Jammu and Kashmir state is cultivating mushroom in large scale, encouraging others to get into agriculture business instead of shifting to cities for work. Mushroom cultivation plays an important role in Indian government's plan to double farmers' income. In order to encourage youth to get into agriculture business, Balbir Singh of Kathua town in India's Jammu and Kashmir is cultivating mushroom on a large scale. Under the guidance of Agriculture Department, Singh started mushroom cultivation. Mushroom cultivation plays important role in government's plan to double farmers' income.
जैसे ही मैंने 10+2 किया, उसके बाद काम को ढूंढने लगा। तो मैंने सोचा कि इसको ऐसा काम हो कि जैसे हमारे प्रधानमंत्री है, सभी लोग कहते हैं कि एग्रीकल्चर का आजकल लोग अपना ध्यान छोड़ रहे हैं और नौजवान सिटी की तरफ भाग रहे हैं। तो मैंने अपने ही खेतों में खेत भी है मेरे, तो मैंने सोचा कि अपने ही खेतों का फ़ायदा क्यों ना लोग बाहर क्यों जाना है, और इसलिए मैंने अपनी ही खेती को बढ़ाने के तौर पे ये मशरूम का काम शुरू किया।
Except peak winter, mushrooms can be widely cultivated with suitable environment. It is a fast-growing crop and takes only a month to grow, depending on production practices. Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/AsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @AsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.